Okay, fans, so here we are for Mythborn Live, 24/7, 365. I'm super psyched to be talking to you again. I feel like it's been a while, and I'm looking forward to today's topic. I don't have a bunch of different new housekeeping things to do. I don't think I'm showing up anywhere in terms of events. So the main thing I'm doing is trying to wrap up book 4 and also trying to get book 2's audio recordings done. So let's see. What are we going to talk about today? This episode is episode 33, all about Yetteje. Here is a warrior princess that I think is amazing. What's so cool about her, in a way, is that she's not your typical sort of, princess, in that she starts out that way, but when Barracore is besieged, she's sort of trapped there. Now, has to do this thing called the Walk of Kings. And what's neat about that walk is they walk basically around the desert, visiting each castle and staying with that king for a number of weeks to months. And that's essentially their way of creating ties with these other castles and also proving their worth. Now, Yetteje has done, if you think of where Yevensee is on the east side of the Alton Wastes, and she has gone north to her, to the Aeonian castle Dawnlight, and then she's gone to the western side of the desert, and that is Barracore. She has one more stop, Shornhelm, and then she's heading back. So she can't make the trip to Shornhelm because Barracore ends up being besieged. Right before she gets to Barracore, her caravan is attacked, and because of that fight, she actually gets her first kill. Now, what we don't realize about Yetteje early on, what we don't realize right away, but we do realize early on in the books, is that she has gone through intense sort of training at this very sort of prestigious academy called the Tir Combat Academy, TCA for short. And the TCA, they have a very sort of pragmatic look at combat. Yetteje is at some level learned pragmatism from that kind of training. There's also a sword fighting competition between the castles, and in the last year's combat, the Tir Academy won, right? The Tir Combat Academy won. So there's a lot of pride associated with each of these combat academies and sort of how they train their students and what they do. And Yetteje is no stranger to that pride. What is interesting about her is, even though she gives the air of not taking it seriously, she's actually sort of serious. I mean, much more serious than normal 16-year-olds would be training. I mean, she takes the training very seriously. Now, I think at some level, it's just that her pragmatism and the fact that she's done this walking around the desert, this Walk of Kings, I think it makes her more worldly in a way. I think travel in general grows you up, and she has spent more than a year traveling from Yevensee to Barracore. So she has survived on her own. Her caravan isn't, a bunch of people and palanquins and maids and servants. They might even travel on their own. This may, in fact, have been just a few who had, decided to escort her from, Dawnlight to Barracore, along with some messages and things like that. So the cool thing about her and the way that she takes on things is she's lackadaisical in projected attitude, but she is serious when it actually matters and she has to get involved and do something. So I think ultimately what's nice and interesting about Yetteje is that dichotomy that she exhibits, which is on the surface, sort of doesn't care, but really deep down, she cares a lot. Also, Yetteje takes her training very seriously. I mean, unlike Niall, in some ways, she's sort of the antithesis of Niall. Niall is looking to make a big name for himself, and he wants to get out there and be, kicking butt. But he isn't actually taking his own training as seriously. Whereas Yetteje takes her training super seriously, but has no desire to be out there. And that is further cemented when she has to combat these attackers in the desert. And after having killed one of them, I think that the reality hits her when she realizes it is about taking someone's life. Ultimately, she isn't looking to get in a fight, and she isn't looking to show off her blade work and her sword work. But I would hazard to guess that had she not got in that fight, coming to Barracourt and killed someone, I think that fight, more than anything else, and the consequences of that fight, that grew her up quickly. Like, she went from, maybe the best word is privileged. Yeah, she went maybe from being privileged to realizing, hey, a blade doesn't care if you're a princess. A guy who's trying to kill you doesn't care if your father is a king. I mean, there might be people out there who do care, but in this particular case, it didn't matter. It didn't matter who she was. It just mattered that she had to defend herself, and she did, and she does, and she does it well. And as a writer, I don't know what my characters are going to do, but when I wrote that part, listening to what she was saying she was doing, I was proud of her. I thought, wow, I mean, that is some really good, actions and good use of your training. So what I love about Yetteje is she learns from her interactions. She takes life seriously. She lets herself learn from interactions that she just had like this. She doesn't paint the world sort of rosy. I think she has a very sort of realistic view of what is going on. Realize when she gets to Barracourt, she's now blooded. She has actually faced someone in combat and killed them. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't something she wants to see again. She has no desire to be part of a fight or a battle. I think she also realizes how important it is that she trains because people expect that you can defend yourself and you don't need to have a number of other, someone else trying to defend you. So I think a lot of things have happened to Yetteje that make her more mature than Niall in a lot of ways. So, what I like about the character is that she adds that level of reality to Niall's life. Niall's still living in this world of heroes and fantasy, and I'm gonna get a magic sword and I'm gonna become king, and he's thinking the way that a lot of kids think when they watch martial arts movies or when they watch Star Wars or whatever. They sort of have this amazing fantasy of them being that character, and Niall is no different. He's not bad because of this. He's normal, right? He's just a kid. He's not really faced anyone across live blades. He doesn't know what the consequences of killing someone's going to feel like. And, frankly, Yetteje would have been just like him to some extent had she not, ran into these attackers on her way to Barracourt. But she did run into them, and it gave her a perspective that Niall doesn't have. And I think at some level, it's creating a separation between them because neither one of them have common ground anymore. They're not both in the same place in life yet. And you see some of this as we go through the story because Niall, consistently he'll freeze in combat. He won't want to follow through with things. And so Yetteje, I think of her as the hope of the land in the sense that, maybe the land was naive when it started. Maybe the people of the land were naive in terms of what they've chosen to do. But as the danger becomes more real, the land is growing up. The people of the land are growing up. They're learning that they need to, take a serious stand. And I think Yetteje reflects that growth. She is the voice of the people, and I think she'll have the opportunity to be the one who leads them in the future. And when you read on, if you read the book 2 and book 3, you can see that beginning to grow in her. She is not only gaining in her own sort of private powers, with her bonded partner, but she is also becoming more and more focused on the good of the people and the good of everyone, not just, focusing so much on herself. One interesting thing about Yetteje that I would share with you guys that a lot of people don't know, when I first wrote the first draft of Mythborn, it was about 200,000 words, and Yetteje was actually a boy. Yeah, believe it or not. And I had written her as a him, Niall's cousin from Evensea. And when I read through it, it feels like it would do better off if Yetteje were a girl. And I sat looking at this ginormous manuscript, right? Oh my God, I'm going to rewrite this whole thing. And I just sort of sat there looking at it for a day or two. And then I just went like this, sat down and started on page 1 and rewrote the entire story with Yetteje as a girl. It took me a couple of weeks. And I know it's a lot faster than I thought, rewriting the whole thing. And what was so great about doing that was I was able to nail some portions of her character, I think, that fit her so much better now that she was a girl than when she was just sort of a generic, boy prince. So many things that were cool about her came out in the rewrite. And I'm so glad I made that decision. I'm so glad. I think ultimately the book worked out well with Yetteje as a female, and she does awesome things. I hope you guys get a chance to pick up a copy of Mythborn and check out Yetteje. Next week, or actually Thursday, I think I'm going to do one on the back half of this and talk about Niall, which I think would probably be good because these two can go together then as a good discussion on Yetteje versus Niall. I think I want to do one on Lilith, who is one of my all-time favorite characters. Some of us would call her a villain. I call her a heroine. I think she is a person looking to save her people, and she is not to be trifled with. So looking forward to that. Please hit me up with comments. I loved your suggestions I've been getting. I got a lot of good feedback on Kisan, that episode, which is why I did this one on Yetteje. And hopefully after some editing, this will actually sound pretty good. Talk to you guys soon, and we're out.